Hello, my name is Matt and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome back. Good to see you again. In this video I want to talk a little more about the disease process and what that means to an alcoholic. So the disease portion, again, is kind of a hard concept for people to accept and understand, and it certainly was for me when I first got into the AA program, because I didn't quite understand how drinking alcohol was a disease. Because for me, it was just a social event. I was like, wow, I drink alcohol, I have fun, it feels good, so I don't quite understand this disease thing. Because, when you compare alcoholism to, let's say, diabetes or cancer or some other disease that's measurable, it becomes a little harder to define. So in its most distilled form, when I think of alcoholism as a disease, I think of the disease process as basically anything that keeps an organism from functioning the way it's supposed to function. And for me, the alcohol was impairing me physically and mentally and almost in every aspect of my life, because I couldn't function anymore without alcohol. And I didn't quite get that whole idea of where it became a problem from alcohol abuse or alcohol dependence to alcoholism, because sometimes it's broken down into those three different categories. Well, for me it doesn't matter, because I know that I can no longer drink and use alcohol in any form ever, because if I do, then I kind of pick up right where I left off. So let's compare alcoholism a little bit to cancer. Now, cancer is similar to alcohol in that it starts out almost undetected. It might start out really small and you don't even notice it, and then all of a sudden it starts to grow and it starts to manifest, let's say, in a solid tumor, and it's somewhere in your body and it starts to grow. And little by little it starts to grow bigger and take up a little more space, and then it starts to become noticeable. And depending upon where it is on your body, you may say, well, I got this lump here and probably nothing. I'll just wait and see what happens. Well, alcoholism was kind of like that for me. It started out as this benign thing that I used to feel better, but slowly over time it consumed my life to the point where I was no longer functioning properly. And when I realized that I might not be functioning properly, I immediately discounted it and said, nah, I'll be fine, it's no big deal, everything's under control, I just need to change a few of my drinking habits and everything will be fine. Well, I didn't realize it, but the disease had already gotten a hold of me, because that's when I started losing friends. Family members started saying, hey, something's not quite right with you. You might want to take a look at this. I started to get in trouble at work, started, waking up late. And just these little things started to add up over time, and to the point where I could no longer ignore it anymore. And it became a choice of, do I want to deal with this, or do I want to suffer some very negative consequences? And like most people in AA, I didn't get here because of my virtues. I got here because I was avoiding getting into some serious trouble. And that's, again, the nature of our disease. Now, again, if you compare it to cancer or diabetes, again, diabetes is, keeps somebody from functioning normally. You have to watch what you eat. You can't eat a bunch of sugar. You can't eat, desserts and stuff that, you're not supposed to eat. You have to have a diet. You have to go to the doctor. You have to do certain things, and you have to manage the disease in order to stay healthy and function the way you're supposed to function. Now, it may require medication, it may require all these other things, but you have to manage it. Well, alcoholism is the same way. You You don't just stop drinking and think, okay, well, I'm no longer drinking and everything's just going to magically be okay. It doesn't work that way. And that's another thing that is frustrating for many alcoholics is once the alcohol is gone and things start to settle down and life gets to be a little more bearable and manageable, our natural tendency is to say, well, I'm fine now and I'm cured and I don't really need this AA stuff anymore. Well, let me tell you firsthand what my experience has been with people who don't go to meetings. The first thing that happens when we don't manage our disease, which is going to meetings and doing the steps and working with a sponsor, is we start to drift away from the program. We start to get into our old thought process of, I can do this on my own, I'm okay, and then we start hanging around places we used to hang around, hanging around with people we used to drink with, and then we slowly start to ease our way back into that lifestyle, and before long, we're back to drinking again. And I've talked to people who've stopped going to meetings, and it's pretty clear that usually after a couple of months, they're already starting to plan their next drink, and they're pretty much made up their mind that they're going to go start again. So they're not managing the disease, now the disease is managing them, and it's not a good thing. So sometimes people come in and out of AA a few times before they finally get it and realize that, this disease is not going to go away, and once I have it, I will always have it. There's an old saying that once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. That's very true, because once this disease has manifested, it just doesn't go away. You have two choices, just like with cancer. Once you have cancer, you always have it. It's either in remission and it's stopped, or it's active. So that's the same way with alcoholism. It's either in remission or it's active. And if it's active, then that means somebody's drinking, they're not managing the disease, and the progression goes on, and life becomes more and more unmanageable. So, anybody else who has a disease, whether it's cancer, diabetes, or any other disease, they go to the doctor, they follow the treatment regimen, they do what they need to do to stay healthy. For an alcoholic, the way to stay healthy is going to AA meetings, talking to other alcoholics, reasoning things out with other alcoholics, reading the book, doing the steps, participating in the program, and working with others. That is it. It's a very simple program. And it's not real difficult, but sometimes we make it difficult. So again, part of this whole disease management is, again, keeping a very open mind and realizing that this disease is very difficult to define and work with sometimes because of the denial factor and the difficulty in measurement, because again, there's no meter or a test that you can get that confirms or denies whether or not you have this disease. So, you have to make the decision on your own. And good luck with that. I hope you make the right decision. But again, there's hope, and there's plenty of tools available to help you maintain your sobriety. And the thing that really keeps me focused is reading the book. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I don't know where to find it and stuff. Again, we're in the digital information age. If you can't find something on the internet, it probably doesn't exist. And that's just the way it is. So, find the book, go get it, and start reading it. And you will find, as I have found, that each time I read it, something new comes up. And again, they made that book short for a reason. It was designed for people like me in mind. The chapters are very short, maybe 14 pages apiece. The stories are designed that way. Small incremental steps. You don't have to do it all at once. And that's basically it. If you stay away from the first drink, you won't get drunk. Because the minute one picks up that first drink, they're chemically altered, the judgment goes out the window, and we're off and running. That's just what happens to us when we're in the disease process. So when I say disease process and the progression, I often tell people to draw a straight line across a board. And on one end, they can draw like their starting point. And on the other end, they can draw a skull and crossbones, because that's where we're headed if we don't stop drinking and get our disease under control. Now, at some point along that line, you can draw an X where you stopped. And it doesn't, that X never goes backwards to your starting point. And that's what I mean by progression. If, let's say, you start at 0 and you make it to 5, and the end point is 10, when you stop at 5, that's where it stays. It doesn't revert back to 0, so that if you decide to start drinking again, you get to redo those first 5 in your progression. It just means that you pick up at 5 and continue toward 10. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but if it does, then great. If not, then we can talk about that more later. But this disease is heading in only one direction. And as you read the book and you start to understand that alcoholism takes us to jails, hospitals, and institutions. That's what we have to look forward to if we don't manage this disease properly and get it into remission. So, with that, I'll let you think about that for a little while and what that means to you in your life. And then in the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about how this disease affects not only us, but those around us, and how we can help, manage that and help those around us that, have been affected by our disease. As we get sober, what are some of the things that we can do to help those that we've had a negative impact on? So, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.